It's really great to have you on the show. And I'm so excited. It was great to meet you in London, and I can't wait to hear more about Ish and how it came to be. So, as we always start on Lush Life with someone's upbringing and background, I'd love to know where you came from.
So my name is Morten Sorenson. I'm the founder of Ish, and it was a pleasure to meet you as well, Susan. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm from Copenhagen, Denmark, originally. Right now, I'm in sunny California, as you might can tell on the background. And yeah, and as the founder of Ish, I travel a lot around the world and promoting mindful drinking, and of course the Ish brand.
So, where did you grow up? Well, sorry, you said you grew up in Copenhagen. Did you spend your whole upbringing there, or did you move anywhere else?
I actually grew up in Spain from when I was 5 till I was 11 years old in the southern part of Spain. So I've been used to traveling since a young age, and then coming back as an early teenager to Copenhagen. That's where I grew up in those years, and since then I lived in California. I lived in a little bit in Cape Town, and just been traveling around the world.
And being from Denmark and then growing up in Spain, what do you think you have from both of those? Those countries. What do you think that you hold inside of you from those?
I think the experience, first and foremost, of being in a foreign country, I think gives a lot of perspective, and the fact of being able to be a global citizen is something that I treasure a lot, and I enjoy the different cultures around the world, and the funny thing is, one thing that I've learned since starting is that drinking is the common denominator. You know, the celebration of making a toast and cheers and so on is something that kind of is something we all treasure, and something that makes us meet new people and enjoy new relationships. So there's a lot of common denominators. That's one of them. And growing up in a different country, I feel like I have a good perspective.
Uh-huh. So now, right before you started Ish, what were you doing and how did Ish come out of that?
I grew up in the what's it called, creative world of Copenhagen. As I was When I was 17 years old, I started working in the creative industry. Started my own agency in the early 20s. That brought me to the US in 2011 for about 5 years, and then as a digital nomad from there on. In 2017, I decided I'm going to skip alcohol for 100 days because honestly, I felt it was slowing me down a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, traveling around, there's always a good reason to have a drink and to break bread, so to speak, with new people and old friends. And I felt like the alcohol part was slowing me down, but the rest was awesome. So I wanted
Mhm.
to take 100 days and say, what if I don't drink alcohol? Can I be equally social? Can I be can be dating, can I be, meeting new people and all that, because usually alcohol is something that surrounds around that. And I decided to skip the alcohol for 100 days and realize in that phase that it wasn't difficult not drinking alcohol, but it was quite difficult finding alternatives. So I always felt like I was a little bit the odd one out, or was a little bit of a nuisance to the whatever venue we were at. I remember one time I was at a restaurant and everybody was drinking dark and stormies, and I love dark and stormies, but I wasn't consuming alcohol. So the waitress come back with a apple juice and ginger beer as a kind of a mocktail or whatever. And yeah, and I was like, thanks for trying, I appreciate that. And of course I drank it and it was fine. She did the best she had to work with, and the problem was she didn't have a non-alcoholic rum to put in there. So I decided I'm going to create a brand. I'm going to create products that makes it easy to be a mindful drinker. And that was the whole inception and the aha moment of Ish. I want to create a brand and a product that makes it easy to be a mindful drinker. And when you think about that, it's like we make it easy to be a mindful drinker. We know that, especially now, there's more and more people that have the desire and the wish to actually lower alcohol a little bit, right? And if we ask the same people, do you want to work out more? Do you want to eat healthy and all that? A lot of people would say yes. Our job as a brand and as a product is to build that bridge from the good intention to action. If we can do that by being on the menu with our non-alcs, by being on the shelves, by being at the birthday parties and the weddings, all those individuals that have the desire to lower a little bit, we make it easy for them to do so. And that's our contribution.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I know that when I go out someplace, I don't always want to have two alcoholic cocktails in a row. Or
Mhm.
if I do, I don't want to have a third. And it's great now to have an option because there are things like ish. Now, when you say after those or during those 100 days that the ish idea came to you, um, uh, were you in a place in your life where you thought, I want to start a business and this is the business that I want to start?
No, not at all. I had a business that was doing well, and was thriving. I was having the best time of my life. I was traveling around the world. I was working on creative jobs and clients, and just being a very free spirit, in that regard, and just doing my thing. So I had no intention of wanting to start a business, but working on so many brands in those many years, working on creating solutions for problems, designing that, communicating it, and all that. It was somehow a natural step for me to just be like, I can do this. I need obviously help on a lot of different parameters, but I could do this. So why don't I just go ahead and do it? So it felt natural to me to create a brand and a product because that was kind of in my DNA.
I got it, especially if you've been doing it since you're 17 years old. That's really young to start on your own and be successful.
Yeah, well, when I was 17, I was most of my jobs was creating coffee for the creatives
Ah,
for for a little bit. So it wasn't until my early 20s that I started my own agency. Like around like 18, 19, 19 probably. I was an art director assistant, and then at the agency, and then from there with a good friend of mine, Erin, who's American. We started. She was in Copenhagen. We started Sweet Creative, which was that design agency, and then we just rock and roll from there. So yeah, so it was natural for me to kind of extend into creating my own brand.
and obviously you have an entrepreneurial spirit, that's for sure. So you have this idea and you're thinking about mindful drinking. You've done your 100 days. Had you, tell me the first steps to creating Ish. What was your first idea and how did you make that happen?
So I wanted to create spirits, and I wanted to create spirits that could be mixed into cocktails. So the first two that we started with was a gin and a rum. And I wanted to create those because there was something to hold on to, so to speak. Like we couldn't create a vodka because there's not a lot of flavor in vodka, and that means that basically you don't have water. So when you have gin and a rum, there's a lot of flavors in there that we can use to recreate. So for example, in our gin, we use juniper berries, coriander seeds, bitter orange. We use like the shells of the seeds of chilies to give it some spice and warmth that you kind of usually get from alcohol. So it kind of burns and warms a little bit. You take this and you have like a dry botanical liquid that also has some heat. So when you mix this with a tonic, for example, you have a 1-to-1 gin tonic. It's just without alcohol. Our rum, for example, is created with de-alcoholized rum that we source from the Caribbean, from Martinique and Jamaica, vanilla from the Sava region, nutmeg from Indonesia. We use again the shells of the seeds of chilies, baked apple. So I wanted to create something that was natural, something that tasted right. So you gotta like a gin and a rum if you like them. Some people don't like gin and they won't enjoy our gin because it's a 1-to-1 analog. So making those, we could start with those, and I say we because I was a one-man band, but I got a lot of help from a lot of sources, and we created those first two liquids as an initial start, and I said to the people that were helping me on the liquid side, I said, I have three like pillars, three things that have to be right. If these are not right, we'll just kind of shut down the project. There's no harm, no foul. I'm have another business, fine. Like this is not end all be all, but and those three things was it has to taste right. So that means authentic. So it has to be if you're mixing a drink and you're drinking, you like that this is a dark and stormy. Is this without are you sure? That was what I wanted on the taste. I wanted it to be natural ingredients all the way through. So everything made from plants and spices and fruits and so on. And then lastly, I wanted it to be satisfying, and that's what I was missing. Is I wanted to create a satisfying element because there was a few brands out there at that point, and I was missing the satisfying element of the satisfying part where you take a sip, it goes up in your brain, and it tells you you're having a cocktail, and then the serotonin and the dopamine starts dancing and be like, this is what I'm used. This is a placebo effect that I'm experiencing right now. that was a satisfying element that I wanted as well. So those three things to make sure that we had a liquid that we could be proud of and put out there is what we created, and then boom, went to market, and then it was rock and roll from there.
But that must have been the hardest part to get the satisfying, to get the ingredients, pretty easy. We can get
Hmm.
things from around the world. All of the other
Yeah.
things, natural, etcetera. Um, how do you feel? I don't know if you want to give away trade secrets, but how do you feel, or just tell us how much as much as you can. Um, did you, how did you get that? Was it using, uh, natural ingredients? Was it, something proprietary? Give us a clue into that
So we're
if you
first
can.
we're very, of course, we're very open in how we do and create our products. We feel that
Uh,
it's a consumers, it's our responsibility to tell the consumer what they're drinking and what they're enjoying. So we're very open with what we've done, and we can see that our techniques have been reused quite a bit in the category because it really gives a level up. So our little trade secret, so to speak, which is not much of a secret, but is the shells of the seeds of chilies. So it's the active
okay.
ingredient in a chili. And if you take a chili and you take a bite off a chili, it's going to have some sweetness. It's going to have a little burn, and it kind of keeps going. We didn't want that, so we wanted something where it actually goes in, creates warmth, and then disappears. And that's what alcohol does. Alcohol goes in, it gives a little bit of a burn. The funny thing is with alcohol is that it actually warms and cools at the same time. So it's a very interesting molecule. It's only one molecule, which makes it really difficult to create an analog for. But we putting the shells of the cheese of chilies and distilling on those to create some warmth, and those warmth it actually gives a little bit of a lift. So that together with the other ingredients that we use add a little bit of volatility. So volatility is important when we speak alcohol, because what happens with alcohol is it evaporates. So imagine
Of course.
evaporation with a million molecules on it. You get this like whoo sensation where you can taste and carry all those flavors. Where you're like, oh, there's if it's wine, it's leather and forest floor, and all these things that you taste because you're getting this evaporation. With non-alcohol, we don't have the evaporation, but we still need to create mouthfeel and
Uh,
lift and warmth and all of that. And the chili component is a big element in that to be able to create that. And then adding in, different, all these botanical elements and so on, we're able to create this sensation of the alcohol when it, understood by the brain. That said, if you take our non-alcoholic rum and an alcoholic rum one to one, you're not going to be full. Like there's a
right.
big difference because they're not intended to be had neat. But if you mix a ginger beer in there, that kind of disappears. So that's the science behind it, because that with that having a full on
Uh-huh.
cocktail, you get that like full cocktail experience, and you get the rum flavor and the rum lift and the rum viscosity and so forth. So there's a little bit of science behind there, which also has been a big job for us, is educating our consumers, because we want to make sure that when you have the spirits, you mix them right. If you do that, it's a one to one. You won't be able to tell the difference.
It's incredible. Really, really incredible. And how long did it take you from your idea sitting there, I want a good ginger beer,
Hmm.
a good dark and
Hmm.
stormy, to
Hmm.
actually making your, the perfect dark and stormy, non-alcoholic dark and stormy that you were looking for?
It took a little over a year to, so it was like October 17, I kind of instigated the idea, and October, November 18 was the first trial run that we did on the products, and did like 5,000 of each bottles, and it was so exciting, and yeah, it was amazing, and obviously did a lot of renditions prior to that, but
I'm
but
sure.
the real interesting thing is that we didn't stop there. So obviously we added more products to the portfolio, but also the gin and the rum we kept reiterating it. So when we put it out, we would get good comments, and we'll get bad comments. So we'll take all those back and be like, okay, what can we do better? We could get more mouth, more juniper, more this, more that. So we just kept getting that, and right now we just launched our third generation of our gin and our rum. So we keep, and there'll be a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. And the goal is to get to a point where you can have a sip of our NA rum and a Diplomatico, and you're kind of like, I'm not sure which one is alcohol free. That's the goal. And so we really reach for the stars on that one, and maybe we'll hit the moon. But it's a good goal to have, and that's why we keep thriving. to just up the liquid and make it better, better, better.
I think you've just created a new category of vintage non-alcoholic spirits, right? And
Yes,
soon
there's some
people will
collector
be
items already.
asking, I know people will be asking for, "Can I have that 2017-ish, please, Dark and
Yes.
Stormy?" And that can go for 200 quid on a menu. I love it.
Yeah. It's
So
on my shelf at the
after you
office.
have
Like,
the
so I saved the first two bottles. I saved the first two
uh
bottles of the rum and the gin. So they're in the office, the headquarters in Denmark, and they're still standing there, nice and pretty, as a little reminder.
well, I'm sure, and you should keep
Hmm.
every first bottle of every iteration, and
Yeah.
then one day have a big party and be
Yes.
like, "Okay, these are the 10. We're stopping here,"
Yes.
or the 100th or the moon, right? Now,
Exactly.
after so you had those, and was it when you took them to market, were people like, "Oh, yes, this is great, exactly what we're looking for," or did you have a hard time trying to sell people on the non-alcoholic, category?
I've heard everything. Like like there was people that were, wow, non-alcoholic gin. I need to try this. This is amazing. Give it to me. Like, let's try and trying it. And then there was people that'll be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And like almost got mad at me. So I've tried the full spectrum. And it was quite interesting. I saw it very much as almost like an anthropology study, because it was interesting to see different audiences, kind of see female versus male, age groups, and so on. And it was very evident that the female audience, early 30s, late 20s, they were very intrigued, but men in their 60s were like, no, don't mess with my alcohol, kind of thing. And I was like, okay, okay, that's fine. But a lot has changed over the years. It's incredible, like with the involvement of the category and the evolution, that it's very, very rare that I'll hear anybody be like, like maybe they'll be funny, that's fine, whatever, you can be like, haha, funny. I've heard all the jokes, but whatever. But it's so, it's like over the last like 4 years, it's been so destigmatized. People get it. People understand. And people want to try. People are curious. And I think it's the power of volume. It's the power of that. There's so many great non-alcoholic brands out there now that are doing all kinds of like functional or analogs like we're doing, or their own liquids. Beer especially has paved the road quite a bit, and it's amazing now anywhere basically in the world that I travel, be like, oh yeah, there's more and more non-alcoholic, definitely want to try, and then they try, and so a lot has happened over those 4 years. But initially there was crossed arms. There was people that thought it was weird, and what was the point? And when we drink, we want to get drunk, so what's the point? It wasn't until we started educating on there's actually something called inclusivity. So we still want to do all that, but maybe you are having a wedding, maybe you have guests that are pregnant, that are driving, they're just not drinking alcohol. And the more that kind of became, oh, actually, that makes sense. I do want to be a good host. Maybe I should get a couple of bottles of alcohol-free bubbly for the wedding or whatever, because I can, I'm a good host then. So there was all kinds of different reasons why people accepted the category, and the fact that then when they try it and they get a good experience, that's the real acceptance, and that's what we're seeing. That's how we're able to grow our business to the way that we're doing, about being more of a global business, is through the flavors. That's how we get judged. That's how we get accepted, and that's our way in to any retailer, to any bar menu, and so forth. So that's the best we can do for the category, is creating amazing liquids.
Yeah, 2 things off of that. I think that any bar now, anywhere in the world, is remiss if they do not have a
Mhm.
large selection of non-alcoholic cocktails for their guests. And not just, and also, I mean by creating special cocktails with this
Mhm.
wonderful liquid that people are producing. Yes, it's great to
Yes.
have something that you can take out one and put in another, but also they're wonderful spirits on their own, and they should,
Mhm.
make something out of them. That, and
Yeah.
also, people who don't drink, they don't just want an orange juice or a Coke or a soda.
Mhm.
And this gives them a whole new range of everything. So
Yeah.
you had the wonderful, the rum, the gin. What was your next venture into?
So then we added on wines. So we wanted to create
Wines.
yeah, a range of non-alcoholic wines that suited that occasion. And again, our mission is to make it easy to be a mindful drinker. That's what we work for every day. So we needed enough range and at a high level liquids to be able to really suit any occasion. So we added in wines, and they're wonderful. They work as a great non-alcohol, like a great sparkling wine, a sparkling white, sparkling rosé, and they're just a crowd pleaser. We have a very good return customer rate on that on our online site. About 80% of people come back for the wines every time they order wines, and it's a crowd pleaser. It tastes really good. We found a technique to be able to de-alcoholize very gently. So instead of cooking off the alcohol or burning off the alcohol, which can kind of make the grapes a little jammy because you got to add a lot of sugar to bring back flavor and again that viscosity and mouthfeel. So here we didn't have to do that because we use really good grapes like Pinot Blanc and Sylvaner grapes and Pinot Noir and Merlot grapes in the rosé. So we were able to use high-end grapes, like fully ferment the grapes, get all the flavor out of the grapes, then de-alcoholize it very gently with low temperatures to get it down to 0%. And then basically we've removed the one molecule of ethanol. That's what we do. And by doing that, we're left with a really good tasting wine. That then when you add in the carbonation, you bring in that volatility part that we talked about before. So then
Right,
now
of
you have all
course.
the great flavors of the grapes. You add volatility through the carbonation, which is it's not like a soft drink carbonation. It's more of a foamy carbonation. So it's very fine bubbles. So when you pour a glass of champagne, you get like the nice foam, and then you drink it, and it kind of foams up a little bit. That's what we're able to recreate in our sparklings, and it just yeah, it's just the crowd pleaser, and it works really really well.
And did you find that was a more difficult process than doing the spirits or easier?
Actually, easier to be honest, because we're not creating a recipe here. We're actually just using the grapes, and then as long as we get the right dealcoholization, and it's not the dealcoholization is not ours. That's not a proprietary process that we own by any means. But the carbonation was really important, so we had a lot of involvement in that, and then doing those combinations, working with some really excellent partners on that made it happen. So that was actually the more easier. What's very difficult is the still wines that we're working on now because there we're missing the volatility from the carbonation. So those we're working very hard on, and we've been working for about almost 2 years now on a still white wine that we launched in Europe, like 5,000 bottles, all just online, basically out to our audience online, and now receiving feedback on that. And then the second generation of that will be an elevated version of the first one. But here we're doing a lot of science. We're doing a lot of things like kind of like combining the sparkling wines with the dealcoholization and the grapes and doing all that. But some of the techniques from the spirits by adding in a recipe of like oak wood and mirabelle and kind of different stuffs that lifts it and gives it again mouthfeel and lift. So that's kind of the science that we're working on right now. So that's the big challenge is still wines to create a good wine experience there.
From a creative to a scientist, you've become, you realize. Now, I have
Unfortunately, we
you
have a full in-house team that helps on the science part, and I'm not the only one, so I'm privileged.
no, no, I'm sure a lot of it is you. It wouldn't even exist if it weren't for you. But right behind me. So
Yes,
I have the sparkling. Uh,
yes,
I have the two wines, and they're just
yeah.
gorgeous. Now, did you do them together, both the rosé and the white together? They came out the same time?
Yes. Yes, they came out at
Mhm.
the same time, and what we're doing right now, we're going through a little shift in our design label. So I can see you have one, the rosé
Oh,
is
yes, I have.
the current one, and the
Which one's
white
the
one is the
current?
new label.
Ah,
So
ah,
the
okay.
new one is the white one, the white
Uh-huh.
label or the white
Uh,
sparkling white, yeah.
because is it still called Chateau de Lish?
Still called Chateau del Ish. We just wanted to kind of give it a little bit of a lift and make it a little bit more fancy in its
Because
design.
I
So
love that name. It's a great name.
right.
It
Thank you.
is.
That was I'll take credit for that one. That was
Uh-huh.
I in my head it was like it's kind of short for
Me too.
Chateau Delicious, and I thought that was
Of
kind of
course.
funny and trying to be funny. But I don't know how many picked up on it. But Yeah, that I enjoy that very much, and it goes back to my roots. Like I love the creation process of a new product, of a new design, of a new label, and just going through that whole process of testing and adjusting and then putting it out, which is always exciting because it's going to be received in some way. And that's how we do like limited launches, and then we'll get feedback, and then we'll make it even better. Because again, our goal is to reach as many people as possible and make it easy to be a mindful drinker. So it's not about what we like and how we want to do. It's about what the masses want, and try to create the best experiences for them as we possibly can.
Which you obviously are doing because I do know that you're in some of the best restaurants in the world. So do give us a little taste of how you got into some of them and what the restaurants are.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. the we
Of
One of the ones. So I'm in the U.S. Our first account in the U.S. was actually 11 Madison Park, and a three-star Michelin
Crazy. You know, one
restaurant
of the best
in.
restaurants in the world.
Hmm. Yes,
So how
exactly.
did
And
that
it's a
come about?
mm, so they contacted us basically, and I think because we're one of the first movers in this category, there were brands before us when we started, but we were one of the first kind of old schoolers, OGs of the category. So I think what they did is that they just kind of looked at the few handful of brands that were around at that time, and then they did samplings, and then they just tried. So we did an online sampling with them because we were in Copenhagen with the team there. They tried it out, and they enjoyed it, and they tried a bunch of stuff, I presume, and then they decided to put us on the menu, which was interesting because we were in Denmark, they were in New York, and they're like, I think it was on a Tuesday, and they're so we need it on the menu by Friday. uh, can you ship us some cases? And we're
Mhm.
like, of course. And then it was getting the supply chain and making sure we get it over US overnighted with a plane and so on, which succeeded, and we've been on the menu ever since, and we've been there for a couple of years, I think. So that's one of them. Another one is a great one is in Copenhagen called Alchemist, which is a two Michelin star restaurant. Very very amazing experience. If anybody has the chance to go to Copenhagen and get a reservation at Alchemist, it's incredible. So one of the you have 50 experiences at the restaurant. One of them is our non-alcoholic tequila, made as kind of a pandang margarita cocktail, and they put that on the menu. They're very very innovative in the way that they do things. So we're very proud to be there, and we love having that acceptance from the category and the industry. It means a lot to us. But to be honest with you, our main audience is actually way more broad. So it's great to be there, but it's really really nice for us if we can when we go out wider, because we know more people will make it easier again for more people to enjoy non-alcoholic beverages.
Right, and not everyone, is lucky enough to be able to go to one of those restaurants, and,
Correct.
you know, you want it to be in everyone's house. Now you subtly brought
Yes.
up your tequila.
Mhm.
So when did you decide to go back into spirits and then do a
So
tequila?
yeah, we did it. So we were seeing really good momentum in the U.S. We've been seeing that over the last couple of years, and we know that tequila in the U.S. I think it's the second largest spirit now. Just I think it just surpassed whiskey, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But it was number three for a long time. I think it's actually number two now after vodka, and it's growing quite so much in the U.S. with tequila. So we thought we need to make a good non-alcoholic tequila because there's a lot of tequila drinkers out there, obviously, and we're seeing the tequila trend in the rest of the markets that we're in. So we're like, we have to create a good non-alcoholic tequila. If we don't, then what a mindful drinker is going to do if they want margaritas and palomas, right? So
Right.
so we decided to do that, and then we launched it May 2022 in New York. We did a big event at Soho House in New York, in Dumbo. We did a great event with Boisson, which is a phenomenal non-alcoholic store in the US. They have about 10 locations now, East and West Coast, and growing. Great partner of ours. So we partner with them to launch it in the West Village of New York on the street, just serving margaritas, which you don't see very often because obviously you're not allowed to drink alcohol on the street. So we're basically just there, music and bartenders and having a block party, but non-alcoholic. So we didn't need any brown paper bags or anything. Cops were fine, and so we weren't breaking any law, and we're just having a party on of course Cinco de Mayo in 2022.
That's fabulous. Now, there's one other thing that is behind me, which are your canned
Mhm.
cocktails. So
Yes.
we have so there's a daiquiri, a mojito, a gin and
Mhm.
tonic, and a
Mhm.
spritz. So I kind
Yes.
of understand. So when should I say when did you start those? And then tell me about the spritz because the other ones, you already had
Mhm.
the gin and you already the gin ish
Mhm.
and the
And
rum.
the rum, yeah. Yep. So the cans came they've been kind of dropping uh, throughout the years, and we started with them right after the wines, and launched those. And the main reason why we did that was to create a lower price point product, make it easier, accessible, more accessible for consumers, to kind of dabble into trying a non-alcoholic cocktail. So, and then the idea was try this and enjoy that. And then, if you want to create your own cocktail, then there's the spirit. So it's kind of segue into that. And again, enough of a portfolio to kind of open up any occasion really. So these are perfect for, parties on the rooftop or at the beach or at the park or whatever, where it's maybe a little inconvenient to bring a bottle of rum. So that was the whole idea, and the spritz especially, that was one that we started with initially, and it was it's just been it's everybody that loves an Italian spritz is gonna love the spritzes. We did a one thing that we're very proud of with it is that we submitted it to a award show called the Great Taste Awards in the UK, and about 14,000 products submit every year to the Great Taste Awards. And this is everything. This is nothing to do with alcohol, non-alcohol. This is everything from cupcakes to ham to whatnot that is submitted into the Great Taste Awards. And about 1.5%, 1.5% of the 14,000 products receive a 3-star rating, and Spritz has received a 3-star rating. So we're incredibly excited about that. We've won over 40 international taste awards throughout the years, but this one especially we're incredibly proud of because it's all about the taste. So people, the judges get presented. This is a non-alcoholic spritz. Try it, give us your, and it was just knocked it out of the park. So that was quite exciting. And again, made from natural ingredients, gentian root, quassia bark, a little bit of quinine for the bitterness side. Then we use Italian citrus, tangerines, lemons, oranges to create that kind of freshness from the citrus, and of course sourced from Italy. And all that put together, we get like a complex herbaceousness with some some freshness. So it's just a perfect summer drink. That in a big balloon glass with ice and an orange slice, and you're gonna have you can drink spritz all day.
Oh, I know, I've had one. It is
Mhm.
fantastic, and you would never
Thank you.
know. And that behind me is my second one. I only have
Mhm.
2, so I am saving it.
Well, you're gonna be
But
excited, Susan, because we actually did a we're bringing back our big bottle of the spritz. So we did that I think a year ago, last summer or something. We did the year before, I can't remember. Yeah, it was the year before last summer because then we put that out. The spritz is in a 75 cl bottle, and it was just a hit over the summer, and we're like, that's great. And then the intention was to keep it all year, and then the next year we didn't do it for the summer because it kind of, we are kind of like, well, we had the cans and stuff, and we're producing new products, so we didn't really do our homework and our data well enough, to be honest. So we kind of took it off. We're like, oh, nobody's gonna miss that. And then we just got completely swamped. We're like, where is the spritz? And we're like, we have the can. We're like, we want the big bottle that we can. So we're bringing it back this summer, but we're doing it as a limited edition. So we're going to do that every summer. We bring in like limited edition big bottle cocktails. So we'll make sure to get some over for you, Susan.
are you sure you didn't do that on purpose to create demand? Huh?
well, my well, my background is marketing, but I'm
Right.
not.
Well, I know I can't wait for it. So, you have
Yes.
all of these things. Should I
Mhm.
even dare to ask what's next?
Oh yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So besides the still wines that we're continuing to work on,
Of
where our
course.
goal is to create an amazing red. It's something that's missing in the category. There are reds out there, and they're doing our thing. We feel that we can bring out a red that the consumers are missing right now, and really hitting on that volume and volatility and satisfying element. So that's kind of our specialty. So we feel like we have some responsibility in bringing out a really good red for the category. So that's a focus point for us. We might never be able to do it. So if you never see it, it's because we just haven't nailed it. But once you see it, you know we've nailed it. So that's next, and then we're working on a bourbon for our spirits. Bourbon is lacking in our portfolio, and we're setting the bar very high on that. We want to create a bourbon that you can enjoy neat. So again, our spirits today are designed to be mixed into cocktails. So we want to create a bourbon. So I don't want to create a bourbon that can only be mixed into a cocktail because I feel that's too limiting, and I honestly I don't think it'll create enough volume for us. So we want to create a bourbon that you can enjoy neat. So imagine just coming home, you love your bourbon, you love the volume and the texture and the flavors of a bourbon where you just have like a little bit. You come home, you know, nice little low ball glass and a big rock of ice, and you just pour this on top, and you just sip it, and you get this like sensation and fill and all of that. That is the goal, and we hope to have it ready by the end of this year. So when it gets a little cold again this year, you know, towards the fall and so on, we hope to have that ready. But it's a tall order, and it's a very difficult one to create. And then we'll
I'm
probably add in
sure.
a few premixed cocktails on the cans, like a margarita and you know something like that. But we don't that's kind of it for us. We don't want 40 new SKUs. We want to do that so we have you know the wines, sparkling and still, enough on the spirits to create enough cocktails and a handful of premixed cocktails. And then what we're going to do from there is just basically continue to just develop on those and just keep elevating them constantly, rather than putting in you know another 10 SKUs where it starts getting way too niche. That's kind of our target and our strategy.
Well, sounds really exciting, and, as a
Hmm.
bourbon drinker myself, I can't wait to try that. But
Yes.
I wanna know, when is that Dark and Stormy gonna come out?
Yeah.
Right? The
So we
first
yes,
thing.
I know, and it probably will eventually. Maybe it'll be kind of like the last SKU that we ever make, just to create that like full circle moment. So it's on the list for sure. So I'll promise you'll be the first to know.
Of course, because it wouldn't be right if you didn't. That was the first thing that set you going on this
Yes,
whole journey.
yes, and even if we only created one can of those, you know,
Exactly, even for
that's
you to
all we
have
need.
at home.
Yes, exactly.
Well, this has been great. Now, I always
Hmm.
leave, my guests asking 2 questions.
Hmm.
The what first one is, if you could give any tip for the home bartender, what would that
Hmm.
be?
Bitters. That was like bitters is the salt and pepper for cocktails. So it's the you know, in any really cocktail that not any, but you know, a lot of cocktails that you make, especially as a home bartender. One thing is being a skilled mixologist, but being a home bartender and just kind of upping that lift, a little secret is bitters, and you can get a ton of bitters. And as a mindful drinker, you can get non-alcoholic bitters, you can get bitters with alcohol, you can get CBD bitters if that's your jam. There's a great brand called Otto out of the UK that we worked with before. We created a CB Daggerish, for example, together with them with a few of their bitters. So there's a bunch of different bitters and a lot of different. You can go from peach to orange to whatever, and using those in your cocktails will just be that little secret of like duk duk, and then people kind of get that extra element. And because you only use a few dashes, even if you use it in a non-alcoholic cocktail, the alcohol content of the cocktail will not surpass 0.5, which in total is the limit for non-alcoholic. So I wouldn't be that would be my definitely recommendation for the home
That's
bartender.
really good to know, especially about
Hmm.
the alcohol that
Yes.
goes into the bitters.
Hmm.
Now, and
Yeah.
last is, and you are sitting somewhere very, very sunny. So, if you could
Yes.
be anywhere drinking anything, where would you be right now? Or let me say that again. If you could be anywhere drinking anything right now, where would that be? And what would you be drinking?
I would be. Is a good question. I would be the top of Kilimanjaro.
Oh,
And the reason why is that I recently got married to my wife, and to my wife, of course. We just got married, and we actually did a little. We eloped to Vegas,
uh,
2.5 months ago. Actually, exactly 2 months ago now. We eloped. We got married in Vegas, and we made it official, and we had such a great. Flew in some friends and family, and we just had a wonderful time. And we still have plans of doing a big party in Copenhagen one time, probably in 24. But our honeymoon, we want to go to and go to the top of Kilimanjaro. So that's part of our honeymoon. So that's always like such a northern star for me to come to the top of Kilimanjaro, have a drink with my wife, and have that feeling of really reaching and accomplishing a goal. And of course, it would have to be a dark and stormy.
of course, of course. Or I was going to say one of your warm bourbon cocktails.
Yes,
Bourbon,
that
or
could
should I
work too.
say bourbon-ish cocktails, right?
Yes, exactly, exactly. We'll be ready for it by that time. Exactly. So
Exactly.
maybe we'll do like a little mix. We'll do like a new cocktail recipe on a dark and stormy.
Exactly. Called the Kilimanjaro.
Yes, exactly. I'm gonna write that
Uh,
down.
well, listen, it has been such a joy to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Great that you could join me from very, very sunny California, and it is freezing cold here. So hopefully we'll see you in London soon. And oh, so I assume you're sold everywhere in the UK, the USA, those those two big countries. But is there anywhere that you specifically want to tell people to find ish?
I think in the UK we have a great partnership with the Wise Bartender. So the wisebartender.co.uk has the full ish range on the website. Of course, you can go to ishspirits.com as well, and that'll take you to our online shop as well. And then basically right now in the UK, you're going to see us pop up a lot of different places. We're doing a lot of work within the UK, so stay tuned on that. In the US, we are all the Boisson stores, all the non-alcoholic stores, and a lot of restaurants that you'll see us popping up, and of course, ispirits.com as well.
Yes, and I just saw you in Charleston, so I know that they have you at
Hmm.
Sesh and also at Club
Yes,
Soda here in London, a new place in
yes,
London
thank you.
that's
Yes,
non-alcoholic.
exactly. I
Yeah,
haven't seen the store yet, but I'm gonna be in London probably this spring and do a few weeks in London over there. So definitely gonna be excited to see the Club Soda store there. I know they're killing it there.
all right, so watch out for maybe tastings of ish coming
Hmm.
soon to a neighborhood
Yes.
near you. Great.
Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you in London.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me, Susan. Take care.
Sure.